I'm your supreme gourmet host, Szerro, and with me I have Akamaru and Mr. MLAQTS. We're recording on a Wednesday, the 20th of September, and we got a lot to talk about. We got some spoilers, we got some stuff with NGE, we got some other tournaments, so let's get right into that. I wanted to know how you guys are doing. How has your week been, Mr. MLAQTS?
Been doing pretty fun. Played some Shadowverse, climbing in the ladder. Feels good.
What have you been playing?
Mostly, I mean, Neutral Haven, of course, when I really want to climb. I've been having some success with Aggro Sword as well. Taizen's list particularly from Rage in Japan, and also with Daria Burnrune, which I think is really strong on the ladder right now.
Does that sword list, is that playing Oathless Knights?
Oathless Knight? Yes, I think it does.
I've been really liking that card in Sword lately. So how about you, Mr. Akamarured? How you doing?
Actually, I haven't played a lot of Shadowverse. Mostly I'm just theory crafting, building lists, building lineups, just thinking about opponents, watching VODs from NG. I need to prepare for that. We'll talk about a little bit later. But other than that, I've done 2 days of chest questing. I got my sleeves, my emblem, my beautiful Larissa emblem, and I was done with the event. I never played it again because I don't really need the extra gold. So I used that time to prepare for NG.
Yeah, you got a lot of work to do with that with NGE.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're excited for that.
Whew.
So
just each game is $2,000, by the way. So it's a lot.
That's so much money for a single game of Shadowverse.
Yes.
So with talking about NGE, let's just get right into talking about NGE and what's going on this weekend. This weekend is going to be the last week of NGE. We're moving into the grand finals. So in the grand finals, MLAQTS, you want to take this? You want to talk about this?
Yeah. So, I mean, NGE, as you guys probably know, is basically the biggest Shadowverse tournament in the English-speaking world, the Western world, North America and Europe. And so last week of NGE, we had the semifinals, and so next week is going to be the grand finals, and we have three people that will potentially qualify from each region to be the winner of NGE. So from North America, we have Jay-Z, who, because he won all his rounds in the semifinals, he'll be playing in the grand finals against whoever wins out of Gengar and Blast. And in EU, we have Fatina playing against whoever wins out of Akamarured or Essia. And whoever wins that game will be the grand champion of NGE in each of those regions.
Now both the people who are on the winner's side of the grand finals, they have to be double eliminated, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I can go into that. So it's the top three. There's the losers finals, which will be, for instance, in you, me versus Essia. That's a best of three with three decks, one ban. And against Fatina on the grand finals, Fatina starts with a 1-0 lead in terms of series. So I will have to be the grand champion. I'll have to beat Fatina twice with the same lineup, but this time around it's a 3-deck no ban. So it's a best of 5.
Oh, that'll be interesting. No ban.
Yeah. No ban.
We don't see that very often in tournament.
Nope. We saw that in Rage recently, but never on the Western scene.
So Akka, does it give you any pressure knowing that like even if you win the first game, it'll just be a bracket reset? Does that like
actually
affect your emotion?
Most of the times, no, because most of the times the lineups are very, like, you know what's going to happen before you actually play the games, because the matchups are very rock, paper, scissors in Shadowverse. So if you win the first series, usually you win the second series as well, because the lineups are just favored in that matchup, if you don't make mistakes, of course. But what that allows is for Fatina to actually queue a different deck on the first game or the second game, and so on and so on. So it gives him more options in this case. So it favors the winner, of course, and gives him more options. And I think it's a decent system, honestly.
And you also have a factor that's I think would matter in a bracket reset situation is you have the momentum. Once you have the game, the other person is gonna start thinking, "Oh man, I slipped up. What's wrong with my lineup?" And might really start getting to them. The pressure might get.
Since you're not able to change, so you're like, I lost with this. So I'm in favor now. Even though it's 1-1, you feel in favor. Because the 1 win you got was not through play, it was through success. So you're right about that.
It's like the expression, fear a man with nothing to lose.
Exactly.
So, with NGE, we also have, so it's not exactly NGE, but on the 29th of September, so on the 28th is when Starforged Legends comes out, right?
Exactly.
And on the
9 days.
And on the 29th, we have the Starforged Legends release event hosted by the Shadow Nexus.
Actually, sorry about that. I think it's 1st October. I think Shadow Nexus changed it because it was too close. Yeah, I think they changed it to 1st of October, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm not sure, though. Sorry about that.
So either the 29th or the 1st of October, one of those two, or something in between. Really looking forward to that. I played in the last release event for Wonderland Dreams. I came in 3rd place in that. It was really fun, and I'm really looking forward to playing another one of these. My favorite part of card games is when the new expansion drops. You get so many new toys to play with. So I know last time it was an incredibly popular event. It was the biggest Shadowverse tournament to date, actually, was the last Wonderland Dreams event, and I expect the Starforged Legends to follow suit.
And for those of you who don't know what this is the Wonderland, or just any expansion release event, is just an event that Shadow Nexus hosts at every expansion to kind of get a taste of what the tournament meta is going to be like for the new expansion. So the format, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it's 2-deck no ban, is that right?
2-deck no ban,
Yes.
and then you have to have
no
10 cards for the new expansion in your deck.
Yeah, so that's just the, so people aren't just still playing the old decks, and they're kind of getting a feel of what's going to be present in the new meta.
So, after the Wonderland Dreams event, we are going to have, I believe it's going to be this Saturday, the final of the Morningstar League. That's hosted by Trials of Faith. I'm pretty excited to see that. I know my student one of the people I'm coaching, Jackie, he's going to be playing in that. He made it into the top 8 of that. I'm really excited to see him perform in that. I don't know if any of you guys have anybody that you're looking forward to seeing that event.
Jackie, I actually saw one of the weeks he played. He got 2nd place. I was checking that out. He played against a Brazilian, which also made a YouTube video about that game, and I found it really interesting that, oh, this is the guy Jackie fought against, and I was able to see from both perspectives, both games, and they were really interesting to see. And of course, I always like to cheer for Jackie or someone else when I'm watching a tournament.
We like to cheer people on who are in our Discord server. That's the if you guys want us to cheer you on, join our Discord server. Shameless plug. It'll be in the description below. So, after that, we've got a lot of spoilers that we want to talk about. We talked about some last week. I think spoiler season is going to be coming to an end. We're going to have maybe this week, maybe some more next week. So, we have some cards that we want to talk about that we thought were interesting. We'll start with this one called Chain of Calling. It is a 2-mana Runecraft card. It is a spell, and it's got the effect of put a random Runecraft follower from your deck into your hand. So what do you guys think about this card?
I mean, there's a lot of potential for this. It's a very specific tutor. We see what Blood did with Baphomet in the previous expansions before the nerf, and I think this has some equal potential if Rune has the tools for that. If anything, it can just be something to make D-Ship more consistent, maybe with actually pulling your Flame Destroyers and such.
I think the fact that it's just able to consistently pull your Flame Destroyers and your Merlins might be a pretty big deal. Yeah. And it's a spell, it's going to spell boost your other stuff. I'm actually pretty excited for this card.
Yeah.
What about you, Akamaru?
And you know that, like, D-Shift does a lot with 2-mana draw a card, and this is better than a 2-mana draw a card because you're controlling what you draw.
Yeah, I mean, they used to play, what's it called? They used to play Trail of Light. This is kind of like Trail of Light, except it always gets you your win condition. Or one of your win conditions.
It's better than Trail of Light, yeah. Exactly. It's a 2-mana spell that cycles itself, and better than cycling, you can specifically tutor something. So I think, like MLAQTS said, we will definitely see this in D-Ship, at least in the first iterations of this ship, maybe replacing Trail of Light or Assault Golem, because is it Golem Assault? Yeah,
Golem Assault, yes.
Because Golem Assault gives you a follower at 3/3, which is also a spell, but this gives you a follower that can allow you to get to your win condition with either Flame Destroyer, Chimera. You also want Chimera really early on the game, so you can tutor Chimera with this. You can get Merlins to naturally curve into your 4, and so on. You don't need to hold Merlin on the mulligan because Merlin is a really important card. You usually hold it, but now with this, you can just naturally get Merlin every time. Or
To be
Flame
honest though,
Destroyers.
I think since like Runecraft has so many 2-mana draw a card, do some things, this card might get phased out pretty quickly as Rune moves on to other options. So it's a good card, but I can't really be sure how much play it'll really see like next expansion and throughout the whole expansion.
Yeah, I think on the first iterations of the expansion, these shit will definitely play with us like they always do. They always try to add something interesting to the deck. The deck is really solid, but they always try to add something into it.
The same thing might happen to it like with Golem Assault. At first people were trying like 3 times Golem Assault and like all that kind of thing, but now most eShip lists just run 1 Golem Assault, but
or none at all.
So, I think we definitely all agree that this card definitely has some potential. We'll have to see what the future holds for something like that. So another card that we have is Airbound Barrage. It's going to be a forest card. It's going to be 1 mana. It's also a spell. Return an allied follower or amulet to your hand, then deal 1 damage to an enemy. Then deal 3 damage to an enemy follower.
So the obvious use for this is probably in Roach Forest as a bounce.
So, I've been saying for a bit, I feel like they might be nerfing, if they nerf anything from Forest, I feel like it's either going to be Roach that they hit, or it's going to be Nature's Guidance. I feel like maybe if they hit Nature's Guidance, this card might be some type of replacement for that card. I don't know if that'll be... I don't know. We'll have to see if they actually nerf Nature's Guidance. But
I think an important thing about Nature's Guidance is because you use it in the Roach combo, a large part of its effect, the draw a card effect, is just never actually used. And with this card here, this card I think is actually more suitable for actually performing the Roach combo than Nature's Guidance might be. So even if there's changes to Forestcraft, Nature's Guidance might just fill a different role in Roach decks as extra draw for you to get to your combo.
Well, but the thing is, this says this card can be played. Wait, this card can be played when both a targetable allied and enemy card are in play. So if your opponent doesn't have anything in play, you can't use it, right?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So that makes it actually possible to play around the huge OTK burst damage that Roach can have. If you don't play anything, they can't start bouncing the Roaches.
But also, the thing is, like, when you're playing Roach against another deck, do you really want to... You can't keep no minions on the board forever. So eventually...
Unless you like these shit.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, or you wait until you have maybe your big ward that you can play safely. Or something. You get to stall for the time you need. Maybe? I don't know.
So it is a really interesting design card.
Yeah, I like it. And 1 mana, deal 3, at the very least, count me in.
Yeah.
I'll gladly bounce my fairy to deal 3 damage to something.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear my opinion?
I do want to hear your opinion, Akamaru. Your opinion means more than anything to me.
This is easily, in my opinion, the best card of the expansion. Easily, by far.
Okay.
By far. Because my favorite class is Forest. My favorite archetype for Forest is Tempo Forest. Also PTB Forest. And this card is amazing in both archetypes. This card is insane tempo-wise because you can... So when you play Tempo Forest, you want cheap spells to activate your mechanics. This is a cheap spell to activate your mechanic. This works with Elfchild May to deal 4 damage on turn 2. This works with Roach if you want to finish the game, but this also works with Cassiopeia. You can play Cassiopeia on turn 7, you can play this, and then play Cassiopeia again. So you can keep clearing your opponent's board every single turn until the end of the game. You can easily curve into Elfchild May, this plus Elfchild May, Sylvan Justice, ETA, Will of the Forest, Cassiopeia, this again, and so on, so on. You can combo this with Crystallia Tia and easily like snowball a board state. It is insane. You can bounce very useful cards on Forest, on PTP Forest as well. You can bounce and it burns shadows, you deal damage, you have removal options. This card is just amazing. When I saw this card, and the next one we're gonna talk about, I just exploded. My mind exploded.
One thing I want to say about this card that I actually didn't realize when I read it the first time is that it's able to bounce an amulet as well, and that actually with one of the new cards that they're making, the new expansion, Spring Green Protection, it works really well for that.
That is why.
You want to take that card, Akamaru? I know you're pretty excited for this one.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that one next. So, the gold card, which we were gonna talk about, actually came before. So when I saw this bronze card, it's Airbound Barrage, I also knew that the gold card was a thing. Like you mentioned, you don't lose tempo by bouncing an amulet, right? Because it's cheap and you can replay it again. So the new card is Spring Green Protection. It's a gold, 1 play point amulet for Forestcraft. It reads Countdown 3. Last words, draw a card. Draw a card as this amulet is returned to your hand. At the end of your turn, give a random allied follower +1/+0. So to make it easier to understand, it's basically a front lines, but it has Countdown 3. When it has last words, so when it's destroyed, you get to draw a card. And if you bounce it, you draw an extra card as well.
So one thing with this card, if you use it with the Airbound Barrage, the card that we just talked about a moment ago,
Yeah.
it draws a card much like Nature's Guidance would.
Yes. Exactly.
And I think something that I was thinking about with the new possibilities for Tempo Forest, like with so many 1-mana cards, you're bound to run out. Like the mechanic is important for Forest. The Forest mechanic is gonna like play 2 cards and then do something special.
Yeah.
And if you want, Forest has fairy generations to keep that going, but with so many 1-mana spells, you're bound to run out of steam eventually. And I think that like this card is something to really help subdue that and to keep you going in Tempo Forest. So I think this will really make Tempo Forest really strong.
And another thing with all these 1-cost cards that Forest is getting, it makes cards like Glimmering Wings and what's the other one called? The 2-mana 2/1 with if you cast 2 cards.
Dungeon
draw a
Crawl Fairy.
No, not Dungeon Crawl Fairy.
Elf
bounces
Wanderer.
something to your
Elf
hand.
Wanderer.
Elf Wanderer.
The 2/1 draws a card.
Yeah, it makes
Elf
playing
Wanderer.
both those cards much better. And I played with Elf Wanderer a good amount. That card is much
Same.
better than it looks.
Same.
And I think with enough 1-cost cards that might push Elf Wanderer into an actual competitive staple. Or that style of just I play a whole bunch of cheap cards and I just keep drawing and I don't stop.
Exactly.
Push on this. Elf Wanderer will become competitive staple.
I don't know if you guys played, like, I know Cezero played a bit of Magic the Gathering. There's decks on Magic the Gathering designed just for this. Just play cheap spells and keep cycling the spell. Like the white human weenies, you have like Thraven Inspector and cards like that. You keep cycling. They cycle for themselves. So you play fairies, right? But you still keep cycling. You get to your Tias, you get to your Roaches, to your Cynthias, to your Lisas. So
To your Beetle Warriors.
to your Beetle Warriors. Exactly. Even the cat. What's the name of that one? The 1 play point
The
forest.
Felper Kitten?
Felper Kitten. Even that one. I was just thinking about a deck of 21 play point cards from Forest,
Okay.
just because we have so much cycle now. Nature's Guidance draws 2 cards with this amulet. This amulet, when it dies, draws another card. This buffs a fairy for trades. It's insane. You play this with Fairy Circle, and on the next turn you have a 1/1, a 2/1, and then you play Felper Kitten, and you have a 2/2 as well. It's insane.
Seems good.
It's insane.
And your curve is always filled.
And then your
Yeah,
Spring Green
always that.
Protection starts buffing stuff at the end of your turn, so your Felper Kitten becomes a 3/2 for 1.
Yeah, for one.
PogChamp.
PogChamp.
So I'm really excited for Tempo Forest. Another card that would be good in Tempo Forest, I'm actually going to skip ahead a little bit, is Ariana Natural Tutor. This is a card that I think is really cool. I'm really excited for this one. So it is a 4-mana 3/3, and it's got Fanfare. Put an Ivy Spellbomb into your hands. And then it's also got change the cost of the Ivy Spellbomb to 1 if you have at least 3 allied followers in play, including this follower. So you only need 2 other things when you play this thing to get the 1-cost Ivy Spellbomb. I don't know if either of you two have ever played with the card Ivy Spellbomb.
Yeah.
It's a good card if it didn't cost 3 mana. That's basically where I'm at with that card.
Can you tell us what it does?
So Ivy Spellbomb is 3 mana, deal 3 damage, and then if you cast 2 cards this turn, deal 2 damage to the leader's face, your enemy leader's face as well. So it's
kind of
basically
like
it's basically Dance to Death. It's like a forest version of Dance to Death.
Yeah, I was thinking about Piercing Rune as well, because it's kind of similar. You do damage to a follower and then to the enemy as well.
I think the piercing rune analogy is probably better than the Dance to Death analogy. But I think this card is pretty cool. Forest doesn't have that many cards they can play on turn 4 and not feel bad about. This card they can play on turn 4, and they also get things in their hand. Forest likes to have new toys in their hand. I think this card just does a whole lot of things that Forest likes.
Yeah.
Yeah, just being able to make a spell cheap for Forest, it's insane because, like I mentioned, we want one play point things to do with Forest because you always are constrained for the amount of cards you play. If you have a 3 play point follower, then all of a sudden you can activate anything else. So the spell was clunky because of that. It was really expensive for what it did. If we are able to make it a 1 play point spell, now that's really good. It gains tempo. It gains value as well because you're not drawing a card. You're actually making a new card. So
you're having this card replace itself too. So
yeah.
It'll curve somewhat nicely into your Will of the Forest or into your Cassiopeias as well. Because
yeah, exactly.
It's not
Allows
cost
you
a card.
I think Forest is like really starting to fit into the I think Shadowverse never really had this deck archetype, but like aggro control decks and other card games, Forest has really started to become that. Just keep on playing low cost minions and control the enemy board with low cost spells while you go face and then use the game.
I love that game plan. Just tempo.
Yeah, it's tempo. Yeah, I was gonna say
Tempo
that.
and caps
It
lock.
is tempo. It is tempo. You remove while developed, basically. It's you gain so much tempo.
You just slowly chip away at them. Well, Rune does that as well. Rune does have that aggro control type game plan as well, with their levies and with their piercing runes.
Snowman is that's why I think Snowman is a tempo deck, because you're developing Snowmans while removing threats, and your Snowmans are chipping damage, and then you have finishers, which is Roach for Forest or Blade Mage for or Sea Force for Snowman.
This card is actually not that. It's not too crazy to say that this card is somewhat similar to Levy, in that it'll give you the Crimson Sorcery, which is the Ivy Spell Bomb. And it gives you a body you can play on 4. Because the Levy, you can play it as a 2-drop, but most of the time you're saving it for turn 4.
I think the largest difference is probably that with this card, you'll most likely not be playing the Ivy Spellbomb as the same turn that you play this minion, while with Levy it's a 1 turn type of thing, while this is more just putting resist in your hand for the future.
Yeah, I have to imagine you're curving like a 1, 2, 3, and then play this guy, yeah.
But the thing is, this doesn't become dead once you're out of Evolves.
Yeah. Yes.
So, one last Forest card we want to talk about. As you can tell, we're all really excited for Forest. We think Forest got some pretty cool tools. So the last one that they got here is the legendary King Elephant, the 10-mana 1/1 himself. So King Elephant is going to be a 10-mana 1/1 with Storm and Fanfare. Return all other allied followers to your hand, and then gain +1/+1 for each card in your hand. And then it also just ignores enemy followers' wards. So the fact that a Storm minion can ignore ward, that they shouldn't be allowed to do that, but that's a different conversation for a different day.
Yeah, I think it lessens the fun and interactive aspect of the card game.
It does not matter how many wards you have on the field. You can have 3 wards, you can have 5 Ancient Elves on the field that are both 10/10s. Doesn't matter. This is going face.
Well, the interaction is just a win before it can go face, because it does cost 10 mana.
So, to me, what this card looks like is this just looks like an updated version of Silverbolt to me.
I agree.
To me, like, his Silverbolt, what was kind of awkward about that card was sometimes you'd find yourself in a situation where you're like, man, I got a Silverbolt this 3/3 minion. So if you had to do that, with this card, you can just King Elephant trade into the 3/3 minion, and then you get to keep a body on board. I think the fact that you get the body on board is gonna maybe push the Wolf Bolt deck back into existence. I don't know.
This can also synergize with Loki if you're going for that kind of spicy thing.
Yeah.
This does get pretty degenerate with Loki, yeah.
I think this is a way better tool for Wolf Bolt, because having a 0-cost bouncer, let's not forget about that. You can play your Roach combo and then bounce the Roaches, and this deals like 7 damage, and then you play the Roach again. So it's like a Nature's Guidance and a Silverbolt, in the sense that you can do your combo, add like 5 or 6 damage, whichever you have with the Elephant, and then Roach finish.
It feels
even if they don't have the wards, so.
It feels very much like Ancient Elf to me. like a very expensive ancient elf.
Oh, it has the same effect.
Do you guys think this will be used outside of Wolf, though?
Well, I think that the problem with this is that the Roach combo is a combo that you're able to execute on not that many mana points, especially if you like Evo over Princess Mage and Fina. You can do a 21 damage combo with Roach on turn 8 and turn 9. With Wolfbolt, it's a slower deck. Usually you put in more control tools, and so it's a more stable deck, perhaps. But the problem with Keen Elephant is it takes up a card slot. So I think it's an alternate win condition for Wolfbolt, but it might not necessarily make the deck any better than this now. So I think.
All I know is there's somebody who's going to be really tilted when they lose to the Wolf comes out, the King Elephant goes face. They play the second King Elephant and go face with the second one.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I want to see? I just want to see the animation and the sound.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like
I
when
really
he
hope
gets
it
on the
makes
board
I hope
and
it
he
makes just
attacks?
a loud elephant sound.
He's getting your opponent like, what just happened? How did I lose 20 HP with like Death's Breath and Cowie, and how did I lose the game?
Well, the thing is that this card does cap at 9 damage because that is the damage it caps at, unless you're
Caps
combining
at
it with.
10.
Does it cap at 10? Hand size. Hand size
plus-
is 9.
Right, it doesn't draw a card.
Yeah, it doesn't draw a card.
But it puts something back into your hand, and then
Mhm.
that new thing that it put back into your hand will give it the 1 attack. So it can cap at 10. Yeah.
Yeah, it caps at 10, 12 if you evolve. But,
And
yeah,
and then if you have Loki shenanigans, it's what?
it's 20.
It's 18.
No,
It
it's
does
19.
19 damage by itself.
Oh no, you're right. It's 19. Yeah,
19
sorry.
damage plus the evolve. If you go, you play the wolf, you grab your King Elephant, you play Loki, and then
Loki.
King Elephant, and then evolve it. That is 21 damage to face. Instantly wins the game.
It's better than Anomaly, right? It's
It's an anomaly with Storm,
It's a
pretty much.
it's a really fun and interactive win condition.
that's gonna happen. I will be paying attention to Reddit just to see the elephant meme.
Oh yeah,
happening.
it's gonna be interesting. All right,
People
so
flame about losing to this all over Reddit.
so we've talked quite a bit about Forest. Let's move to some other classes. So, how about you, Mr. MLAQTS? Why don't you take Heresy's Avatar?
Right, so Haven is actually getting a couple of new tools too. I think that what Cygames is doing with Haven this next expansion is pretty interesting. So first let's read the card, Heresy's Avatar. It's a 7 playpoint follower, 6/5. Last words, destroy every countdown amulet immediately after you play it. This effect lasts for the rest of the match. So,
Your hero becomes
important
Skull
card
Fang.
in this expansion that we probably all know about is Zodiac Demon, which is a neutral card, which I forgot its stats, but basically what it does is
5/5.
5/5, and it takes a minion that costs 7 or less from your hand, puts it into play, and destroys it, and deals damage equal to its attack to an enemy follower, or is it any enemy? I think it's an enemy follower, and
it's
if
any
there's no
enemy.
follower, it's an enemy, right?
If there's no followers, it's enemy. Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is some insane synergy with that. That line 6/5, its 6 attack is like vanilla for 7 play points. And the last words, destroy every content amulet immediately after you play it. There's something Cygames is trying to promote with this expansion. Like the new mechanic is kind of permanent effects for your leader. And this has synergy with Zodiac Demon because you play it, you deal 6 damage to an enemy, and then for the rest of the game you can just play countdown amulets, which Haven has lots of, and get lots of board control. So it's just a really neat win condition.
I like this thing. I like that we've seen that they've been trying for quite some time to give Haven that card that just immediately pops amulets, and they've just been having trouble. They gave us Skullfane, wasn't they had to nerf it. Now it's not enough. Eidolon isn't enough. Candelabra isn't enough. So they're trying over and over again, and I guess they're trying again here. We'll see if it works. We'll see if Haven finally has their ways to pop their amulets instantly.
Yeah, I really like this card for 2 reasons. First, because they're making like Zodiac Demon better, and I like that because he's the face of the expansion. I kind of wish every single class had an effect like this, right? So we could call it like the 7 play point Zodiac friend or something like that. So each class would have a Zodiac friend. I just hated that they give it to Avon, and then we'll see later to Blood as well. I wish every class had one of these guys, because you're promoting your players to play Zodiac Demon, right?
Well,
This
reveals
way,
aren't over.
this way, people that want to play Zodiac Demon will be kind of restricted to a couple of classes. But then, even if you don't have Zodiac Demon, this is a 6/5, like you mentioned. I like the fact that it has less health than attack, which on a last word's really amazing effect. You want less health, right?
You want it to
So
die.
I like that. Sorry, Zero?
You want it to die, is the main thing.
Yeah, exactly. Rather than a 5/6 like we saw a 4/5 Bender Snatch, right? We want Bender Snatch to die. So this being a 6/5, I think it's way better than a 5/6. I really like, you lose tempo by playing this, of course, because it doesn't have an immediate effect, but you can recover that tempo on the next turns. You can dump all your amulets. You can draw cards with Sacred Plea. It's a 1 play point, draw 2 cards. You can play Arya. You can play, I don't know, Seraph. You can play anything you want. Temple of Inquisition, like draw 3 cards. It's insane for that reason. So I really like that they made a weird card, but I think it's gonna work. I don't know if it's gonna be top tier, but I think it's gonna be a good deck.
If you play with Zodiac Demon, you don't necessarily even lose tempo if the opponent just does like 1 large minion on the board, because it just destroys the minion.
Yeah, it just forces you to have the 2 followers, but yeah, you don't lose tempo. Exactly.
If your opponent just played their Zodiac Demon, you get to play your Zodiac Demon. And then you get to keep a Zodiac Demon. What?
Sounds good.
What? Insane.
Reveals aren't over for this expansion, so I really do hope that the other classes will get things like this too. So synergy with Zodiac Demon and the permanent leader effect.
I think they're all going to get some sort of something that'll work with it. I don't know if they're all going to be good. Like we saw with Neutral, everyone got some sort of toy that worked with Neutral. Tilting at Windmills wasn't good, but it was a toy.
Yeah, it was a tool, yeah.
So a countdown amulet that Haven got that I'm really excited for is Globe of the Starways. I think this card is awesome. It is a 1 mana countdown 3 amulet. With Fanfare, put a random countdown amulet from your deck into your hand, and last words, draw a card. What I really like about this card is that it's just a 1 mana thing for Haven to play. Haven doesn't have many of these. Having things to play on turn 1 and having these you can just fit into your turn are incredible. Like I can't stress that enough. It's cheap.
I think it's kind of like Sacred Plea. Like every slow Haven deck runs Sacred Plea because it's something that's 1 mana yet it has value throughout the game, and it's the same way.
What fast Haven deck doesn't play Sacred Plea?
Neutral Haven.
Doesn't Neutral Haven sometimes play it? They sometimes play
it. Yeah. It's kind of weird though. Yeah, some people use Sacred Plea on Neutral Haven, yeah. But what I really like about this is that this just gives options to Seraph Haven, because instead of having Sacred Plea in this, you can just add this, because this will be like a Prism Priestess, because you'll draw an amulet with countdown. So maybe sometimes when you play Prism Priestess, you get Sacred Pleas on turn 4 as a Seraph Haven, and you don't want to be doing that. You want your Seraphs, right? You're getting closer to turn 8. This is just a better Sacred Plea to pull from Prism Priestess, because it just cycles with itself, and it gets you closer to the Seraph Haven. So you can play like Prism Priestess, next turn you play this, and then you play it again, and then you play it again, and suddenly you're getting your Seraphs more consistently.
And
so
that's a nice way to think about it.
I think in something like Seraph Haven, maybe not exactly Seraph Haven, but I think most of the Haven decks are going to want to play both Sacred Plea in this.
Yeah.
And I think even Seraph Haven will be interested in playing both, just because it's an amulet that they can cheaply play and get an effect out of.
Yeah, but I don't know if it might affect the consistency of pulling the Seraph, your win condition. That's the only concern, but yeah.
But,
I think
it does also give you more ways to use your things that pop things.
The comparison between this and Sacred Plea is just it gives you 1 less card, but the card it gives you can be more specific, and it also gives it to you immediately. So a lot of decks will want to run both just for that extra value, but if you want specific tutors,
this has last words draw a card, so it actually gives you just as many cards as Sacred Plea, except that you get the first one immediately.
Yeah.
Doesn't Sacred Plea draw? Wait, does Sacred Plea draw 2 or
Sacred Plea draws 2, and then you draw 1 at the beginning of your turn.
Yeah.
So it draws you 3.
No, the card draws 2. But when it pops, you get 3 cards. Yeah.
And
this is the same.
This is going to draw you 1, and then when it pops, it draws you 2.
I think this is better than that because I rather draw one and then draw another than waiting 3 turns to get more options. I like to have my because this can get me Arya, right? So I can play Arya on 2. So I prefer this to Sacred Plea. If I had to choose one of both, but usually, yeah, Avon wants to play both, probably, except very specific decks. But yeah.
And with Sacred Plea, you sometimes get into that awkward position when one of your pleas finally pop, you overdraw. And this will just happen a little bit less, I would think, since you have the time to play the card that you draw earlier.
I think something nice about this, if you play this in Stormhaven, the fact that it's countdown 3 means that it pops 1 turn before turn 5, which is when like all your other amulets pop with Beast Call Area and like the Storm Falcon and all those cards. So it clears up the board for that, and it's
I think in Stormhaven they will play this instead of Sacred Plea because Stormhaven doesn't want to play 6 of these. I think because you lose tempo on the mid game when you get cards like this. But for turn 1, I think this is a lot smoother than Sacred Plea because again you get more options, right? You get the Divine Bird Song, you get the Aria, you get every other option. You get Pinion Prayer to play on 2. So it gives you more
fits
options.
really well into the Stormhaven curve if you can get it on 1 by giving you options. Like, it can give you the Beast Call Area on 2, and then on turn 4, when you're pretty much running out of cards, it gives you that extra boost game.
Exactly. I'm really excited for this one. I think it's going to be a quite powerful card for Haven.
Yeah. We all know Sacred Plea is amazing, so this will most likely be in every single Haven deck, I assure you, because either it's paired with Sacred Plea, or most likely it'll be 3 of these instead of 3 of Sacred Plea, which actually makes me think about rotations again, right? We talked about this the last week. Maybe they will rotate Sacred Plea, so this will be the new Sacred Plea.
Maybe one day. I don't know when they're ever planning on doing their rotations. I know they had once mentioned it, and that was like the extent of my knowledge on the topic. So, some other cards we could talk about? Let's move on to Blood. So, Mr. Akamaru, would you like to take how do you pronounce this thing?
Jormungand. That's how I pronounce it. Jormungand.
So
Jormungand is the legendary for Bloodcraft. PogChamp. So it's a 6 point, 5/5. Last words, whenever your leader takes damage during your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemies. This effect is stackable and lasts for the rest of the match. So, this is, again, kind of like the Heresy, the new mechanic. When this dies, your hero or leader will get an effect that is permanent until the match ends. And that effect is whenever you take damage, it deals 1 damage to everything, including the opposing leader. So, again, this is Zodiac Demon Ammunition. You want bullets, right? Special bullets. And even on itself, it's kind of insane because it's a 6 point, 5/5. It naturally curves on your Vengeance Blood because most of the times on 6 with Vengeance Blood, you don't have anything to do. Most likely you play like Razor Claw or play the second Air Jammer and you flood 1 mana. So I think this naturally curves into that, and I think this is a really good tool for Vengeance Blood because obviously you're always hurting yourself, and while doing that, it's basically Ambling Wraith, activates Razor Claws, Blood Wolves, and so on, so on. So I really am excited for this card.
To me, this doesn't exactly feel like a Vengeance Blood card.
Yeah.
Because Vengeance Blood, one thing you'll notice is like a lot of the damage Vengeance Blood does to itself, it's burst damage. Like you're playing your Belphegor and you're immediately dealing 8 to yourself. So I feel like this is going to be in some sort of Blood deck that's going to want to be like chipping away and controlling the board a little bit more than Vengeance Blood, as we know it to be now, wants to do. I think if this does end up being in Vengeance Blood, it's going to be like a completely different type of Vengeance Blood than what we're used to seeing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And what I was about to say, too, because I think with, like, as a 6 mana, for Vengeance Blood, the current game plan of Vengeance Blood is kind of like, get Vengeance on 4, flood the board during 5 and 6, and then kind of win on 7, and this doesn't really fit into that kind of strategy. So this will definitely, I think, be a better card and a more controlling type of Blood.
And this
more damage.
This card also screams, play me with Zodiac Demon.
Yes.
Because this card also has the last word, the same type of thing going on with the Haven Legendary, where it's got the last words effect, where it wants to die, so to get that effect. So we'll have we'll have to see. Also, in case anyone was wondering, a Jorgrimmund is a serpent, sea serpent in Norse mythology.
Yep.
Oh, cool.
The World Serpent.
The World Serpent.
That's really cool. So I like this card because I think it's in a really good class, because Blood usually wants to be aggressive, and when you play a 5/5, it demands your opponent to remove it, and when your opponent removes it, you get an extra upside. And it's not that badly statted. I mean, 6 play 0.55 with such an upside, because it's kind of like Caraboss in the sense that for the rest of the game you have that ping, that option to ping your opponent, right? So, and even clear the board, and it stacks like Caraboss, so you can play this,
not even
then play it again, then play it again. Can you imagine 3 of these dying? It's like you have 3 damage every single turn if you have cards for it. It's insane.
This is the same stat line as Phantom Cat, right?
Yeah.
So we all saw that card's pretty aggressive. That card does work.
Yeah.
I mean, Phantom Cat obviously it did some reach as well. It like did immediate reach damage, but having the same stat line as Phantom Cat, I don't think is a bad place to start.
Yeah. So I was talking about Vengeance Blood because there's a new Vengeance Blood going around with Bloody Marys and Dire Bonds, and which is more like an Ivor deck instead of just being flat out aggressive and tempo oriented. That's why I was talking about Vengeance in that sense of you use your Belphegor and then you control the match from there. You remove threats and then you finish them off with Bloody Marys. This is just a way to keep slowing the game until you get to your Bloody Mary combos with Brazier Claw. Brazier Claw will be a deal 4 plus 3, deal 7 with Bloody Mary. So it's gonna be interesting. We'll
Almost for Salamander.
It's quite a bit of reach. So another blood card we have here is Venom Fang Medusa. It's going to be a legendary 4-drop, a 4-mana 3/3, with Fanfare, summon a Serpent, and a Serpent is a 1-mana 1/1. Correct me if I'm wrong, right?
Yeah, you're right.
And then at the start of the turn, if at least 2 allied Serpents are in play, so you need both 2 Serpents and Medusa. But if you have both of them, they combine and become Medusina. Now,
Medusiana, yeah.
Now, do you guys remember what Medusiana does? I believe it's a...
Yes.
1/7. I forgot what mana though, and it has Bane, and it can.
Yeah, it's 1/7. I think it's a 7 play point or 8 play point token, and it has Rush and can attack up to 3 times. It has Rush and Bane, if I'm not mistaken, or Storm. No, I think it's Rush. Actually, don't know about that. Maybe Storm actually, because I know you can attack with it immediately.
I just checked this Rush.
It's Rush.
It's Rush. Okay.
It's
So
8 mana.
you can attack up to 3 times. It's a 1/7 Rush Bane follower.
So I don't really know. I don't get this card because so your 4-drop lives, and then if your 4-drop and both Serpents live, this thing also has Evolve Summon a Serpent, so it can by itself make all the Serpents that it needs.
I think
to activate.
something to consider though is if you evolve it, it evolves in +2/+2. Like normally, if a card has a positive evolve effect, it just gains +1/+1 on evolve. So if you evolve it, that is 7 play points total. I mean, it's 7/7 split.
Yeah.
It's 3 + 2 + 1 + 1. So, and even if you just play it without evolving, it's 4/4 split for 4 mana, which is decent. And I don't think it's hard to make the Serpents combine and form Medusiana, but the enemy does have to kill at least one of the 3.
One of the 3, yeah.
Yes, and against aggro decks, they just don't want to be killing anything. So this does really slow aggro down the line.
Well, what I'm thinking, how it works in my mind is I feel like this is the kind of card that you want in an aggressive deck because of how many stats it is and over how many bodies it is. But what confuses me about this card is, so if you want this in an aggressive deck, let's say somehow your Serpents do live and the Medusa does live. So the turn gets back to you, your 5 attack minion dies, your 2 1/1 Serpents die, and you get a follower with Rush, so you can't even go face with them.
No, I thought that would happen at the beginning. This is not a Flame and Glass effect. Only the Serpents combine. Medusiana will stay the same. It's not a Flame and Glass. Yeah, only the Serpents combine.
Okay, so this card.
So the Medusiana the Medusa can keep producing Medusianas throughout the game.
If you have enough ways to make the snakes, yeah.
But Medusa does have to stay on the board for the Serpent.
What a couple of people are not understanding, is if you play Medusa and then play Medusa again on 5, that is really threatening. That is, you all of a sudden have like 4 Serpents, or maybe 2 or 3 hanging around, and the 3rd Medusa will be even scarier. So the fact that you can stack Medusas and make this really wide board, which is what aggro usually likes, is really threatening. And it has good stats for that. So.
And I think the way I like to think about this is just it's a 4 mana 3/3 that generates a 1/1, and when you evolve it, it gains +2/+2 and summons another 1/1. Like, even if the Serpents didn't combine, I think that's a decent card. And the fact that they do combine is just a bonus.
I think this thing is just like a lot of stats and a lot of tempo for what it is. So I would be a little surprised if this thing, just because of how much stats it is and how much pressure it can provide, I'd be surprised if this doesn't find some form of home in Aggro Blood. But
This is
now that I know
so-
that the actual Serpents combine and the Medusa doesn't, the card got a lot better in my eyes.
yeah, same. The same happened to me when I started reading it a couple of weeks ago. Yeah, because so Blood doesn't have Big Knuckle Bodyguard on 4 anymore. Aggro Blood doesn't have a really good option on 4. Usually they do Vania and Summon Bloodkin. This just gives you another option in case you don't have both cards. So it makes the whiteboard again. It gives you more options, gives you more bodies. Usually Aggro Blood wants to have a whiteboard so they can evolve Phase, right? And on 5, I doubt there's a single card that answers Medusa by itself. So the bodies will probably stay around if you have a good curve on Aggro Blood.
Angelic
I find
Barrage.
I find it kind of odd though that like Blood is being given 2 kinds of 1/1 tokens. Like Blood already has bats, and now these. Like, this card would be so much better if it just
With
went
bats. Oh
Yeah.
god. Oh god. I think they thought about that, but they
Yeah.
changed it.
That had to be the reason. Like that had to be too strong if this combined with bats
Yeah.
instead
Yeah.
of Serpents.
Because you have Fortress as well, so it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, it's gross. There's so many ways to make bats. You have Vite. You have. I'm
Yep.
so glad this
Yeah.
says snakes and not bats.
yes.
So,
Can you imagine summon Snakekin? Is that a blood card? That would be insane.
summon Snowkin.
I think with Blood, it's kind of like Serpents are just better than bats,
Are
Mhm.
they?
and it's a more late game thing. It's kind of like in Shadow with skeletons and zombies. I kind of think of like bats are the skeletons and these serpents are the zombies, even though it's the same stat line. But if you notice with like, there's another Blood card somewhere that does 2 damage for each bat summon. I mean, for each serpent summon. So it's kind of just like, it does everything that bats do, but it's better with different cards.
So I think our consensus here is that this thing is just like good stats. This thing, it gets to go beats, it gets to go face. Probably just going to be a solid card.
Mhm.
So
Probably.
another one we got here, Mr. MLAQTS, if you want to take this one. Fulminous Demon.
Yep, so Fulminous Demon is a gold 5 mana 4/4, also for Bloodcraft, and it reads, at the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to both leaders if Vengeance is not active for you. Deal 1 damage to all enemies instead if Vengeance is active for you. So immediately you think this is probably going to be a good card for Vengeance Blood because it does so much with Vengeance. And I think, like, you can think of this as just a way to get you into Vengeance if you're not already in Vengeance, and if it's in Vengeance, it's a good effect. So I think it will fit really well in Vengeance Blood.
I think this is a control blood card. I think this card is going to be pretty good with cards like Blood Moon, because I don't think you want to be at low HP when you play this card, like you want to be in Vengeance Blood, because as soon as you play this and you're at low HP, you can start, you don't have any way to protect yourself. This thing doesn't have ward, it doesn't have any way to heal yourself, so you're really vulnerable during the turn that you play this thing. So what Blood Moon
Yeah,
lets
just
yeah, you got it, Akka, you got it.
no, go. I was cleaning my throat. Sorry.
What Blood Moon lets you do is it lets you just play this card and be safe while you're doing it. Because you can play this while you're at 17 HP and you can still get in the Vengeance effect.
What I feel from this expansion is that Cygames is giving us effects from spells that are not really used too much with bodies. So I think about this as, like you mentioned on Control Blood, this is like Angelic Barrage with a body, right?
Mhm.
So it gives you the option of evolving it after you deal 1 damage to everything. So it is what I really like about this card is that it gives Blood the option to deal with whiteboards. We didn't have that before.
Without
We had
Revelation.
Demonic Strike.
You had Revelation.
Without Revelation, yeah, but like in a decks like mid-range Blood, you don't want to use Revelation because you have your own board, right?
Mhm.
So this gives you the option to actually deal with whiteboards, and some matchups were really hard to deal with, like Temple Forest. So now this is an answer for Temple Forest and stuff like that. So this just shows me that Cygames is printing really new tools for other classes, but they have in mind that we need to give answers to the other classes, because we don't want to repeat the mistake of Spawn of the Abyss on turn 6, because not every class had an answer for that. So now they're giving powerful tools, but they still have in mind what they've done with the other classes, and they're like, okay, let's give Blood options. Let's give them German Gone, which is wide board clear. Let's give them Fulminous Demon, which is another option for wide board clear. So they have that in mind, and that I appreciate from Cygames.
Cygames did say in an announcement that they were going in a different direction with the design philosophy, and it's kind of part of that. I like it.
I'm excited for this. Like, the thing about like Angelic Barrage was that the card was definitely a good card. Like, you can play any game of Shadowverse, and pretty much in every single game of Shadowverse you'll play, there will be at least one turn where Angelic Barrage will be sick. But the thing is, it's Angelic Barrage, and you need to have it at the right time. It's a weird tech card, and all it does is 1 damage. It doesn't do enough by itself. So when you have Angelic Barrage stapled to a body, it gets significantly better. Like you're able to see it in like games like Hearthstone. I'm sorry for cutting you off, Akamaru. But like in games like Hearthstone, do you remember the card Ravaging Ghoul? It was the 1 damage effects are insane. When you have them on a body, they only get better.
It's kind of like Will of the Forest, right? From the Cassiopeia Legendary Forest, you have the Will of the Forest effect attached to a body. That gives you so much more options because you can evolve. Before on turn, you had to play only the spell, right? And you had nothing else. You're not developing, you're not evolving. Sometimes you need to evolve, otherwise your opponent will tempo you out of the game. So this just gives you so much more options, and that's what I want as a player, as a competitive player. I want to have as many options as I can, instead of being like, oh, my turn 5 is, well, Dark Air Jammer, I have nothing else. Well, maybe now, if the meta changes, instead of Dark Air Jammer, maybe I'll have to play something else, like a Fulminous Demon, or a Sabreur, or a Big Knuckle Bodyguard. So it just give me more options to the classes, so I'm not forced to play the same class and the same archetype and the same builds and so on and so on. I really enjoy that.
So we should jump on to our next card. So the next card that we have on the list is, what is this thing's name? Is it Blood Sheep or is it Devil Sheep?
Yeah,
I think it's Devil Sheep.
Blood Sheep.
Blood Sheep?
Oh, Devil Sheep, yeah.
I don't think this card has been confirmed what his name is in English yet. I think it's only been released in Korean so far.
Bagoom says Devil Sheep.
Bagoom says Devil Sheep. So this thing, I'm really excited for this card. I don't know about Akamaru and everyone, and MLAQTS, but so this card is a 2-mana 2/2 with Fanfare. Whenever your leader takes damage, oh wow, wait, this thing is Fanfare. My love for this card just significantly dropped. Whenever your leader takes damage during your turn, restore 2 defense to your leader. This effect lasts as long as this follower is in play. So up until a moment ago, I thought you could pull this guy with Air Jammer and get the trigger and get his effect.
You thought it was a static effect.
I thought he was a static effect, yeah. But alright, so this guy is just a 2-mana 2/2 in a deck like Vengeance Blood. Now this Vengeance Blood needs ways to heal. I don't know if this card is gonna find its home into Vengeance Blood now that it doesn't work with Air Jammer, but
it's like a Galretto, right? It looks really cool, but when you think about it, the Air Jammer pool.
I had so much to say about this card, and now I just have so little to say about this card.
There are some people who are like big fans of Galretto, and this is like.
That is true.
This will probably find a niche home in some as well, maybe.
2-mana 2/2s are the type of card where they're all pretty interchangeable. You just pick the one that you happen to like the most. So if you happen to have a bloodless that does a lot of damage to itself, you know, maybe you want to use this card. Maybe this card.
Take 2.
Yeah, it's pretty alright in take 2. I mean, even with what's it called, Jorgamund? Even with Jorgamund. Jarmungand? I can't pronounce that thing for my life. I will never pronounce that thing right. But you do some damage to yourself, but you end up healing more. Like your Ambling Raids somehow start healing you for 1. And dealing 2 to your opponent. I don't know, it might be something. There might be something.
Yeah, the problem with this card, in my opinion, is that its effect is one of those famous effects in Shadowverse, which is until this body stays on the board. And I don't know if you played a lot of Shadowverse like we did, like like as 3, you played a lot of Shadowverse, and we know that sticking a body throughout the Evo turns and the rest of the game is almost impossible. So having a 2-drop, either you save it for turn 7 or 8 and do a quick cute combo, or it's like on 2, you're almost never gonna get its effect if you play it on 2.
Yeah, you
Because
never
it's so difficult.
you never expect your cards to survive till the next turn.
Never. That is why Flame and Glass is not a thing, because it's never gonna survive until the next turn.
You know, like, now that I think about it, when has Until This Body Leaves the Board card ever been good in Shadowverse?
Exactly, right? So there's a ton of those cards, and they never work, man. They never work. Because when it says, when this leaves the battlefield, your opponent automatically locks into that, and is like, oh, I need to kill that. And they'll use their removal on that, and so on and so on.
So, Akamaru, I think you really want to take this next card.
Oh yeah, I want to talk about this card. So it's not a very good constructed card. So it's a dragon. We were not talking about dragon cards, so I was like, let's give a little love to dragon. So I don't know the name of this card. I don't know if you guys know it.
I'm looking
I just
for
know
it.
it's
I can't find the name.
Sworn Strike is the English translation.
It's not translated yet, so it's probably gonna change the name. So it's a 3 play point gold spell for Dragoncraft, and it reads: deal X damage to an enemy follower. X equals the number of Dragoncraft cards in your hand except this card. In hand 7, draw 2 cards, double the damage. So the reason why I want to talk about this card is not for constructed, it's for limited drafts. Take-Two. I am a fan of Take-Two. I also appreciate that Cygames is printing good Take-Two tools for classes that are not good at Take-Two. We all know Dragoncraft is probably the most underrated, most underpicked, and probably one of the worst. Including one of the
Resents the Ouroboros nurse.
What do you mean we all know? Who else plays Take-Two but you on HSK?
I play Take-Two. I play Take-Two.
No, you don't. You're a liar.
If we want to make a podcast to the Shadowverse community, we have to talk about Take-Two, Mr. Cesar. I'm sorry about that. So why is this good in Take-Two, you ask, and I'll tell you. So in Take-Two, removal is premium. If you get a removal spell, you always pick it. Almost always pick removal spells because on the turns you don't have evil points. It's the only way you can answer opponents. So you either pick a body that has removal on it, like pick a Big Knuckle Bodyguard, Sabreur, so on and so on, or you pick a removal spell. Why is this good as well? Because it has an hand 7, draw 2 cards, double the damage. So on turn 7, you can kill 1 body and draw 2 cards, which is also insane in Take-Two. Drawing cards and dealing with a body, you trade 1 for 1, but you draw 2 cards. And it's also an Enhance, which in Take-Two, again, it's premium. Enhance is really strong in Take-Two, because it gives you the option of, okay, I have 2 cards in 1, and then, yeah, you get a lot of value for that. So, this is a Take-Two really solid card on Take-Two. Really strong.
An effect like this that happens late in the game as well. In Take-Two, games get pretty grindy. Around that turn of the game, people are starting to run out of cards. The ability to just draw 2 new cards and then also remove something, it's a huge tempo/value swing. It can if you're behind, it can pull you back into the game depending on what you draw. If you're ahead, it can bury your opponent.
Like, this is why before the nerfs, Ouroboros was so good in Take-Two. Like, before the nerfs, Dragon was actually a top tier draft just because of Ouroboros pretty much. If you drafted Ouroboros and you got in the game, you just won the game because it removed something and it gave you value. And this card just does the same thing. So strong.
So you always go to the late game because Ouroboros would heal you, and then you just keep replaying it, and then they have to kill it because it has the 8 attack, and then you play it again, and then again, and again, and again. This is also insane because the Enhanced 7 also doubles the damage. So if you have like 2 Dragoncraft cards, which is oh, and you also draw first. I just noticed that now. You draw 2 cards first, so it increases the damage you can potentially do, kind of like Silver Bolt. So it doubles. You just need like 2 or 3 dragon cards, and this deals like 6 damage, which will kill most things in Take-Two. So just sharing up love, Take-Two love.
I wonder, like, we're saying that this thing isn't good in constructed, but like, I wonder, is this thing really that terrible in constructed? So if you're enhance this thing, and you have 5 dragon cards in your hand, it starts doing 10 damage. That can kill like an evolved Israfil.
The thing is, that late in the game,
in a control deck, in a like control mirror, that's a pretty big swing. Killing an evolved Israfil, and then drawing you 2 cards.
So the problem with constructed is, I think MLAQTS was going to say that as well, and We got Sa. We got most Sa packages use neutrals, so this doesn't deal that much damage when you play it. Also, on turn 3, you don't want to play it, of course, because you really want the enhance. I feel you're not gonna do like 3 play points to deal 2 damage. You have Breath of the Salamander for that.
Wait, but
And
would you mind
problem?
having another way to do that though? Would you mind?
It depends on it depends on the meta. I think you're right. If the meta is very aggressive, you always want the removal spells. You just want to survive, and then you just out heal him.
Well, I think
Out heal him.
I think what this card ends up doing, right, in more of controlling meta, instead of because traditionally we see right now Dragon decks they play the 3 Breath of the Salamanders and the 3 Blazing Breaths, but in a control meta, the 3 Blazing Breaths they kind of suck.
Yeah.
For lack of a
Oh,
better
you're
word.
right.
Another problem with this and control versus control matchups is the importance of initiative late on in the game. Especially in the Dragon Mirror, you really need to maintain initiative.
You do.
And that's why like Bahamut is such a good card in the Dragon Mirror because it clears
Exactly,
the enemy
that's
board and it just like it's single-handedly no matter what's on the board, it shifts initiative over to you. And this card, even though it's able to remove an enemy card, just because it costs 7 and it doesn't really give you the initiative. Like, sure, you
Doesn't
can play
develop.
Ayla on turn 10 with it, but it's still just the enemy can play something else, and you just have to deal with that again. And that's why I think it's not necessarily that good, especially.
It also doesn't deal that much damage. How many dragon cards do you even have in turn 7, right?
Well,
it doesn't
let's-
deal that much damage.
Well, I don't know. Like, what about the Like, I'm not by any means saying I think this card is insane. Like, I'm just as skeptical as you guys are. Maybe a little less so. But I think the fact that like they made that dragon legendary, the Prince of Darkness for dragon, where it takes all of your non-dragon cards and
Oh,
removes
yeah,
them from
it's
your
called
deck.
That's a good point.
Python.
So like, I don't know. I feel like with this card and with both those cards I just mentioned, maybe they're trying to work something with that. Maybe it's
So
not.
you think
too
there could be like
obvious
a
yet.
shift in Ramp Dragon from the neutral like game package to a more Dragon Count focused like game package?
I think that might be something that they might be trying to do with a card like this, but I'm really I don't know. I'm just trying to like, why would they make this thing a gold? I don't understand why this thing is a gold if it's just gonna suck.
Because
Not
it's so
all
good in Take
golds are
2.
good. Actually,
It's
they're
so good
one
in
of the
Take 2.
worst.
That is true.
If this
Yeah.
was a bronze, if you just draft
It
Dragon,
would be ridiculous.
That is
Take two. No,
exactly.
you're absolutely
That
right.
is exactly right.
You're absolutely right. I don't know. So probably not that great and constructed, but I'm curious. I'm curious about this thing. So one final card that we can talk about, unless you guys have anything else we want to talk about. A neutral amulet that they made that I think is awesome. This is a 1-mana amulet with countdown 7. Whenever an allied follower is destroyed, subtract 1 from this amulet's countdown, and then it's got enhance 5. Subtract 7 from this amulet's countdown. So it just immediately pops it if you're able to play it for 5. And then it's got last words. At the start of your next turn, put 3 random followers from your deck into your hand.
It's called Staircase to Paradise.
So this thing, it's kind of like spellbook decryption, but not terrible.
It's a good analogy.
Maybe it's worse because you only get okay. So what most people don't remind themselves is that you don't get the 3 cards. You get the 3 cards on the next turn.
That
So,
is
yeah,
true.
Keep that in mind.
But it does sort of punish your opponents for removing your stuff because you get the cards faster. I don't know. I think I think this thing might just be good neutral draw, and I don't. An effect like that just might find its home in some decks. The neutral decks, unless they do some significant nerfs, I expect neutral decks to stay around, be good decks. And
I think that this card is like kind of terrible to play between turn 3 and turn 5. Like on turn 1 and turn 2, I guess it's okay because I think probably with most neutral decks, turn 6 through turn 8 is about when you'll be running out of steam. And then that chance is just a pop instantly. But if you play this any time, like between turn 3 and just after that without the enhance, 7 countdown is a long time, and that makes this card not that great.
well, it's think of it more. I like to think of this more as like 3 countdown or 4 countdown, just because if your opponent's not killing your stuff.
Oh, I just realized the countdown reduction.
It decreases,
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, what I hate about this card is that after turn 5, it's impossible to play because you never want to enhance this card. You're basically playing 5 play points to not do anything this turn because you're not drawing the 3 cards. You only get them the next turn. So you're playing 5 play points and have nothing. You basically play 5 play points to do nothing this turn.
Well, have you ever
Just
been in that
next.
situation where you're playing neutral and you've already got like a pretty significant board and you just don't have like
I
much of
just
anything
don't
to
want
do
to do
in the
anything.
turn?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So that's what this card
Yeah, but
does.
you,
can play
like
it
you
on that
mentioned,
turn.
you can't do anything yet.
But you can play this on that turn where you.
But
have
then in that
control.
case, it's kind of just a win more card. Like, when have you had a full board with neutral Haven and lost a game?
I played the 5th.
Yeah, you're right. It's just I don't know. I think this is really strong because it's neutral. Neutral draw, I think, is really strong
It
because
draws.
there's some classes we on HSK we love Control Forest, and we realize that class lacks draw cards. So this is neutral. There's another follower, a 1/2 for 3, that draws 2 cards as well. I think that is really good that they're giving options for classes that have bad card draw engines. I like that.
I love how casually you said here on HSK we love Control Forest.
We do.
I play
mean,
I play Tempo Forest. Thank you very much.
no, I mean this expansion. We don't love Control Forest. You're crazy, man. You are crazy.
You had mentioned that that Forest itself just doesn't have that many draw tools. I know I had said that would be our last card, but I'm actually going to bring up one more card. Forest got a card in this expansion called Venus. It is a 5-mana 4/5, so it is basically Sybil. And it's got Fanfare, add a Harvest Festival to your hand and make it cost 0. This card is ridiculous.
Yeah.
If that card is true, we need to remind ourselves that's a translation from the Japanese text. So if that card is correct,
Yeah. If anybody remembers the PTP meta,
oh my god, Harvest Festival. I need to remind you guys that Harvest Festival was nerfed. That card was nerfed.
and it was nerfed significantly. It costed
Yes.
2 mana and it was nerfed to 4 mana.
Yes.
If it costed 3 mana, it would probably still have been played for a while.
This is
Have you guys ever played that card at 4 mana? Because it's still not that bad.
I did. I posted on Bagoom. I had a 6-win streak with PTP Forest on Master, 2,000 points last month with Harvest. So I brought a PTP list in NGE. So I practiced a lot of PTP. I was playing Harvest Festival. I was winning Dragon. People were saying it's a bad matchup. I kept Harvest Festival in my opening hand, and I was actually out grinding Dragon with Crystalias, with Lilies, Lilacs, sorry, Crystalia, Lilac, Ancient Elf, like roaches to clear big bodies. I was actually winning that matchup because of
Like
Harvest Festival.
Because
It's
Harvest
so
Festival is
We-
not a countdown amulet, right? If I remember correctly.
No, it stays on board. We should
Yeah.
probably say what Harvest Festival is. So I believe Harvest Festival is a 4-mana amulet with if you cast 3 cards this turn, draw a card at the end of your turn, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
correct.
So
I had games where Harvest Festival drew me 6 cards for 4 play points.
so just think about, like, we were talking about how Forest is getting all these 1-drop spells and all these just other 1-drop cards. This becomes your top end for that deck. This becomes
So much
legitimately your.
simple.
This becomes just like your Sybil, where it is your big 5-drop engine that will advance you closer to your win condition. This is going to draw you a whole bunch of cards. It's going to be a big tempo play that's going to evolve, kill their best thing, and make it so that you're never going to run out of cards for the rest of the game between all of your fairies and all of your other 1-drop things that just happen to draw you cards.
Your fairies suddenly become like you play 2 fairies. You're almost always gonna draw a card. After I played Harvest Festival, the next 5 turns I would always draw a card because I have always something to do. You have like access to 6 mana because you play this on turn 6, and then you can play like fairy, like Sylvan Justice, another fairy circle, fairy. Everything in your deck suddenly cycles, and it's just insane. I love that card.
So definitely lots of hope for like.
So I imagine a Forest with like Cynthia top end and this card.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Crystalia, we'll see. Depends on the build.
Or maybe King Elephant is your top end. I don't think so, but
It could be a finisher, right? If your board is cleared every single time, you do need a finisher, so.
I don't know. I don't think King Elephant is going to be the finisher of choice for that deck, but
No, I think it's Roach. I think it's gonna be Roach. That's the other thing in Temple Forest. You're not having cycle, right?
Mhm.
Before you didn't have cycle, so you either had Roach and Nature's Guidance, specifically, or you just had to hope and get it. Now can consistently get the finisher with Roach because you just keep drawing cards.
And this is why there's no way they're not taking a toy away from Forest. They've got to be nerfing something. I'm afraid to know what it is. But
it's Goblin Mage.
I don't know, man. Goblin Mage, I don't think they can nerf that one again.
Change it to 3 mana.
Wait. Alright, so we have talked about pretty much all the cards we wanted to talk about today. Really fun episode today. I really enjoyed talking about these spoilers. I don't know about you two.
Yeah. Thank you, MLAQTS.
So we're gonna start signing off over here. Come check us out on Twitter. Come join us on our Discord. We love to talk on Discord. We have a great community of people who hang out. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. The obligatory, ironic saying. Alright, everyone. I think that's everything we have to talk about here. Thank you for joining us. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.